The World Cup is the most exciting it's ever been. Right now, more people are packed into stadiums than at any other World Cup in history. 80,000 people at a time, on their feet, screaming as one, all feeling the exact same thing in the exact same second. And every one of them is getting a dose of something doctors now compare to medicine. It's called collective effervescence, and I'm going to tell you all the details behind it. Researchers even think it may add years to your life and help protect your brain against dementia. Best of all, it's completely free, and when it hits, your body floods with oxytocin and endorphins. Your stress hormones drop, and for a few minutes, you just stop worrying about the bills, the diagnosis, and the to-do list. A French sociologist, Émile Durkheim, gave this feeling a name more than 100 years ago. And now researchers can even measure it in your blood. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly where to find it. In a concert, at the dinner table, on a dance floor, at church, even in a room full of people with dementia, where someone who can no longer speak suddenly sings out every word of a song that they loved 60 years ago. One of these things even beat yoga and dog walking in a head-to-head well-being study. I'll tell you which one, and I'll also tell you who paid for that study, because honesty is the whole point of this channel. I'm Neil K. Shah, a Johns Hopkins and NIH-funded caregiving researcher, and I'm also the CEO of Cariaya. I've helped thousands of families navigating aging, dementia, and serious illness. I'm a leading researcher and innovator in caregiving, so when I talk about loneliness and the aging brain, it's about things that are near and dear to me and that have helped many people who are going through. If this kind of honest, research-backed help is what you're looking for, please subscribe right now, because what I'm about to share could change how you spend your next weekend. So let's get to the heart of this matter and the 100-year-old idea. In 1912, a sociologist named Émile Durkheim coined a phrase, collective effervescence. It's the electricity that forms when people gather and their emotions sync up. At a wedding, a concert, a religious service, even in a packed stadium like we're seeing at the World Cup. Durkheim said that left alone, individuals can barely face the hardships of life, but gathered together, they're recharged. Now, Durkheim wrote that in 1912, just 6 years before the world was hit with World War I and shattered by the 1918 Spanish flu. What came next? The roaring 20s, jazz halls, dance marathons. A whole society traumatized by wars and pandemics instinctively reached for a collective joy. They didn't have the science, they just knew in their bones that being together brought them back to life. Well, we have the science now, and let me show you what's actually happening inside you. When you sing in a group, your body does something it doesn't do when you sing alone. Researchers at the Sing Well project ran a clever experiment. They had people sing both by themselves and in a group. Solo singing lowered the stress hormone cortisol. Yeah, that's nice. But group singing did something solo singing didn't. It raised oxytocin, the bonding hormone, and it lifted people's mood. Think about that. The only variable was whether other people were there. And that's what flipped the entire brain chemistry. And it's not just oxytocin. Singing and music together trigger endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and elevate and uplift your mood. Brain scans show a medial prefrontal cortex lighting up, a region wired straight into the emotional core of your brain. In one 2025 study, people with Parkinson's disease who sang in a group got a bigger boost in oxytocin and closeness than even people doing yoga. So that's the upside. But to understand why this matters so urgently after the age of 50, you have to understand the danger on the other side, and it's really a lot worse than most people realize. In 2023, the US Surgeon General did something rare. He issued a formal national advisory, the same kind of warning once issued about cigarettes, except this time it was about loneliness. The title was Our Epidemic of Loneliness and Isolation. And it's a major problem to your health. Poor social connection is linked to about a 29% higher risk of heart disease, a 32% higher risk of stroke, and roughly 50% higher risk of developing dementia. Let me repeat that one because it's the whole reason I'm making this video. Chronic loneliness is associated with a 50% higher risk of dementia, and the mortality impact has been compared to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Now, who is most at risk? People over the age of 50, because that's exactly when life starts removing people from the table. Your retirement ends the daily contact with your coworkers. Your friends might pass away. A spouse might get sick. Your hearing fades and conversation gets harder. If you're a caregiver watching this, you know that isolation intimately, because caregiving itself can be one of the loneliest jobs on earth. You're so busy caring for someone else that your own world shrinks to the size of that room. For an aging brain, gathering with others may be as important as blood pressure or blood sugar. But there's good news. Unlike a prescription, you can start filling this one today. And let me give you the menu, starting with the one that beat yoga. A few years ago, researchers ran a well-being and heart rate study on people doing different activities, going to live music, doing yoga, walking a dog. Live music won hands down. It wasn't even close. Just 20 minutes at a gig produced a 21% jump in well-being, compared to just 10% for yoga and 7% for dog walking. Feelings of self-worth and closeness to others each rose by 25%. Mental stimulation jumped 75%. However, a big caveat here. That study was commissioned by O2, a company that owns concert venues. So yes, take the exact numbers with a grain of salt here. The concert venue had an obvious interest in making a great headline. But still, when 2/3 of people say live music makes them happier than listening at home, I think that gap is huge, and it points straight back to Durkheim. It's not the music alone, but the shared experience, the crowd, the thousands of strangers feeling the same thing in the same moment. I think that's collective effervescence in a ticket stub. And it doesn't have to be a big stadium or a famous band. Just a free concert in the park, a high school jazz night, a church choir performance, even your grandkids' recital. Speaking of free, let's talk about something you can do tonight in your own kitchen that one of the world's top scientists calls one of the most powerful well-being tools that we have at our disposal. Robin Dunbar is an Oxford psychologist, one of the most respected researchers on human social bonds. He ran a study called Breaking Bread. His finding was people who eat socially are happier, more satisfied with life, more trusting of others, and have wider support networks. And the mechanism is the same one we keep hitting all along. Eating together triggers the endorphin system, the laughter, the reminiscing, the passing of dishes. Then in 2025, the World Happiness Report, which is one of the most authoritative well-being publications on earth, looked across 142 different countries and reached a blunt conclusion. Sharing meals is one of the simplest, most reliable things any human can do to feel better. And here's a history tangent that your new dinner guests will love. The Romans had a word for this, the convivium, which literally means living together. A big feast that was as much about belonging as about food. Nearly every culture on earth, going back as far as we can remember, has built rituals around the communal table. Dunbar's theory is that we may have evolved eating together precisely because it bonds us. So maybe the family dinner isn't old-fashioned, but one of the oldest technologies that we have. So the action here for all of us is simple. Cook a meal and don't eat it alone. Invite a neighbor. Call the adult children. If you're caring for someone with dementia, sit and eat with them rather than just serving them. That shared moment matters much more than just the menu. Now let's also get your body involved, because the next one literally raises your tolerance for pain. Researchers, again including Dunbar's group at Oxford, ran what they nicknamed the silent disco studies. They had people move to music, some perfectly in sync with each other, and some totally out of sync. Then they measured the pain threshold, which scientists use as a stand-in for how many endorphins your body has released. The people who moved in synchrony could tolerate much more pain afterwards, and they felt more bonded to the strangers that they danced with. The out-of-sync group, no effect. So it wasn't just the exercise, it was the togetherness of the movement, bodies rising and falling on the same beat, that really opened up the endorphins tap. And this is ancient. The writer Barbara Ehrenreich wrote a book called Dancing in the Streets, A History of Collective Joy, tracing how for thousands of years humans have gathered to dance in ecstatic groups, and how only relatively recently we've talked ourselves out of it. We've turned dancing into something for the young, the fit, the nightclub crowd. But I think that a line dance at the senior center, a slow sway in the living room, a folk dance at a festival, your brain rewards all of it. If you're finding value in all this, do me a favor, please. Share this video with one person who's been spending way too much time alone. You might be handing them a prescription that they didn't even know existed. Now, the activity with maybe the strongest longevity data of all, and this surprised even the researchers. A Harvard researcher named Tyler Vanderweel studied more than 74,000 women over many years. He found that those who attended religious services more than once a week had a 33% lower risk of dying during the study period than those who never attended. Now, before anyone tunes out here, this isn't a video about religion, and you don't have to be religious to use what he found, because Vanderweel dug into why, and the answer is the thread running through this entire video. The longevity benefit wasn't mainly about the prayer itself or having faith. The strongest predictor was just showing up, physically gathering with the same people week after week. As the researchers put it, the communal element seems essential. Service attendance turned out to be a stronger longevity signal than most other forms of social support. I think that is collective effervescence in a church or temple. The standing together, the singing together, the grieving and celebrating together. And you can find the same ingredient in a stadium full of World Cup fans, in a volunteer crew, in a weekly poker game, in a community garden. Which brings me to the room that I promised you at the start. The one with the people who've lost their words. People with dementia. If you're caring for someone with dementia, you may believe the door to connection is slowly closing. But I want to gently tell you that one door stays open much longer than almost any other. Music, sung together. The part of the brain that stores the musical memory is remarkably protected from Alzheimer's and dementia. Long after someone forgets what they did 10 minutes ago, long after they still struggle to find words, they can still often sing every lyric from a song from their youth. There are now more than 70 memory choirs around the world, and the Alzheimer's Society runs a program called Singing for the Brain. A Cochrane review, which is the gold standard of evidence reviews, found that music-based interventions can ease depression and difficult behaviors in dementia. A neurologist at Northwestern, Borna Banakdarpur, described it perfectly. He said, people with dementia may not talk much, but when they come to choir rehearsals, they kind of wake up. Think about the words, they wake up. Because the collective effervescence, the singing in sync with others, reaches a part of their brain that the disease hasn't touched. For a caregiver, this is, I think, everything. It's a way to be with your loved one again, not just care for them, but share an experience together. So let me pull all of this together into something that you can actually do. Here's your week. Pick one. And these are accessible to most, if not all of us. Go to live music, a free park concert, a church performance, a local band at the library. 20 minutes counts. Cook a meal and refuse to eat it alone. Invite someone, anyone. Move to music with other people. A senior dance class, a folk night, or just your spouse in the kitchen. Show up somewhere regularly, a service, a club, a volunteer shift, a weekly game, because repetition is where the longevity signal lives. And if dementia is part of your world, find a memory choir or a sing-along, or just put on old songs and sing along together. I think the cool thing here is none of these require a prescription, a supplement, or even a lot of money. They just require that you stop doing life alone. In a community center right now in Florida, there's a choir. Half of them are people living with dementia. There's a woman there who can barely speak anymore. But when the music starts, she sings. Out loud, every word, her eyes bright, fully present. Her caregiver said it's the 1 hour each week that she gets her person back. That's, I think, what Durkheim was trying to tell us and name 100 years ago. That connection between people that sparks the energy. We are not built to face life alone. Not at age 20, and certainly not at age 80. So here's my ask. Subscribe so that I can keep bringing you the honest and research-backed truth about aging and caregiving. And then share this video with one person that you'd want sitting at your dinner table. Don't just send it to them. Invite them. Make the dinner, go to the concert, and sing the song. Because the way to well-being isn't the medicine that you take. I think it's something that you do together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.